Hi, I'm Ryan Richardson, member of the elite group with HomeSmart. Our end of the year stats are in and we officially have our 2015 numbers. It was an incredible year, and now that my Cowboys are no longer in the playoffs, I have so much more time to compile these stats. Let's dive into what happened last year. First and foremost, let's look at our Valley rankings and the price per square foot. Paradise Valley, as expected, came in first as the most expensive per square foot in the Valley at $345 per square foot. Literally, you take 2 steps and that's $700 worth of real estate in Paradise Valley. A distant second starts with the rest of the Valley. You've got Carefree, Scottsdale, Fountain Hills, and much more of the East Valley. Anthem and New River top our list if you go up north, and the West Valley comes in strong with mainly Peoria. If you want to go even further west, Wickenburg, which I believe it kind of gets a boost because of the amount of land that you get with many of the homes as well. Lastly, the very outside areas come in as the cheapest price per square foot. You'll start to see Maricopa, Arizona City, and Coolidge. Much more home for the money whenever you do go outside of those main areas in the Valley. But be ready to get your hybrids out and your electric cars charged up, as it's going to be a bit of a drive. Looking at the city specifically, Phoenix, as you can see, every single year since 2011 has had an increase in price per square foot. This last year ending up at an average of $137.93 per square foot, which is up actually 6% compared to last year's end of the year $129 per square foot. Peoria shows the same trends where they go up every single year. It's actually up to $124 price per square foot, which is up 5%. Scottsdale is up a full percent to $228 a square foot, and Surprise up 5% at $105. All cities showing the same trend every year since 2011 of an increase in values. Out of the main Phoenix area valley, the biggest increase was actually Glendale this year. They saw a 8.6% increase to $115 price per square foot on average. Glendale also received a big boost because there are a few areas throughout the city that have vacant lots that actually have new builds that are being built on it now. I've seen a big push for these new builds over the past year, which really helps those ratings for a city that is relatively a bit older than much of the Valley. Glendale has also had some great expansions with businesses opening and being built, which has drawn more people in wanting to be close to where they work, thus increasing demand and, of course, those prices. Those in the city council for Glendale are doing many great things for the city and its growth, and it really shows through a lot of these reports. Youngtown also deserves a mention, as they did also see an increase, and they're in the Valley as well, of 11% to $83 price per square foot. It's such a small town, though, just right in between Peoria and Glendale. A lot of people don't even know about. So those 1 or 2 sales there cause a big fluctuation in the number. And that's why it's not really noticed quite as much as something as big as Glendale with the amount of population that it does have. So another big question that I hear often is, after all these years of value increasing every single year, is there enough room for us to go further? Can we continue to see an increase in value? Which is why this actually got me curious to look at some numbers over the longer term scale. Currently, the Valley as a whole sees a price per square foot of about $137 a square foot. That square footage is only according or matched up to May of 2008 numbers. That's almost 2 years after the crash began in mid-2006, which was well into the 190s price per square foot. We are not even close to capping ourselves out on values here. Also, another point is to note that when you look back in 2004, when values were increasing at such a substantial rate, that people were seeing 20 to 30% increases in value just over a year. That inevitably caused a bubble to burst, which values dramatically decreased. It cannot hold such an increase every single year over time. So then you look at our current increases and where we're at and how we got to our numbers, and you see it's a much more steady, better, healthy rise in value. I really feel that there has been a learning experience back in our 2006 market that allows us to avoid those same mistakes. So if you're holding off to purchase, waiting for values to hopefully come down, you're going to be waiting a really, really long time if they ever even come back down. Lastly, this shows us the typical price per square foot of homes that actually sold. You notice how much higher these active listings are priced per square foot and what they're asking for from these sellers compared to those that actually sell. That's a mixture of a few things. More expensive homes just take longer to sell, whereas the cheaper homes have more buyers that can afford them. Therefore, they're a bit more in demand just simply because you have a bigger buyer base. However, you do notice that active listings price per square foot starts to increase at a higher rate than those that have actually sold. This is simply put that sellers are wanting these home values to increase faster than what is realistic and higher than what is truly happening. This is why, as a buyer, you want to be sure that your agent does their research to ensure that the home that you love and that you want to write an offer on is actually listed at the correct price. Although we're in a rising market and values will eventually get up there, you don't want to end up in a negative equity situation. Now we look at some detail for the success rate of these listings. HUD and lender owned top out at the highest success rate, but that's really just because these banks, they're not in the business to hold these homes. They will keep on reducing the homes bit by bit until someone finally pulls a trigger to get it sold. Really, it's a matter of you're never going to have a bank that just cancels and decides to keep their home. They're just simply going to get it sold and get it off of their books. If you're a homeowner that listed and you didn't sell, you aren't alone. Only 73% of homes listed actually sold this year. This is because of a few factors, mainly the price being too high, but also could be in the presentation and marketing of your home. If you have a home that needs some work or has a lot of clutter and or only has a few cell phone snapshots of your curb appeal, it's going to be a little tougher to sell that home. This is why, as a seller, it's very important for you to do some research as well. Not only on your agent to make sure that you have the correct representation, but also on what your home in the area, similar homes, are actually selling for. If you are tens of thousands of dollars more than even the closest recent sale, it's going to be a bit tough to sell, and why you will find yourself more days on the market, or even worse, not selling at all. Lastly, the lowest success rate is short sales. For the majority of the year, they were actually under a 50% success rate. More of them were falling through than actually going through. So what happens in those scenarios, you sit there and you wait 6, 7, 8 months, you finally hear back from the bank and they choose to foreclose, or they counter back at a price that's higher than true market value. This happens now because mortgage insurance, first and foremost, but also because of these rising values. Banks actually want to foreclose. They want to take them for a higher dollar amount than anybody is willing to pay, but then that way they can do their own repairs, their own changes, and then they decide what they want to list it as and what they eventually want to sell it for. Lastly, our bottom of the market sales steals that we traditionally used to see back in 2009 and 2011, it's unfortunately a very, very few and far between. This is actually a good thing. For our market, if we were flooded with short sales and foreclosures, your values are going to be held down because of those distressed comp values. They're not going to allow your home to increase a substantial rate because they're selling for so much cheaper. And appraisers use those comps to determine the value of your home. So we look at Phoenix, and only 8% of all sales were distressed properties. Peoria was only 6%, and then Surprise as well was also only 6% of distressed property sales throughout the entire year. This number seems to decrease each year as banks' foreclosure inventory finally starts to dwindle. Inventory as a whole also begins to decrease as well, which, as you know from our previous reports, only increases values as demand stays the same or may even increase because supply is now lower. Phoenix, Surprise, and Peoria all saw a decrease in inventory compared to 2014. One, because less people are listing their homes, but also because more of those homes are actually selling. You have more buyers now that have the capabilities to purchase, which increases again that buyer base or demand. This actually overall is a fantastic thing, as the Valley average shows that these listings are selling at 97% rate compared to what sellers are actually asking. So there's a lot less negotiating going on. The days of being able to offer $20,000 to $30,000 less than what the sellers were asking is unfortunately over, unless they are already overpriced, which goes back into the importance of research and the values for the homes that you are actually offering on. There is just simply too many good homes that are selling quickly for sellers to be willing to leave tens of thousands of dollars on the table, and not enough inventory that's just sitting on the market. Back to our market trends and our market forecasting. There's an incredible new stat called our market index. This takes into account everything that we mentioned. You've got inventory, supply, demand, value increases, days on the market. Every bit of those details determines the overall health of the market. So you have 100 market index. What that means is a balanced market. So now the buyers and sellers have no advantage over each other. Above that 100 mark becomes a seller's market, which means lower inventory, higher demand, and below being a buyer's market. You've got more supply, less demand. The really big eye-opener for me was how familiar this chart looked to an earlier chart that we looked at that showed our market bubble back in 2006. You notice the large peak and downfall starting in May of 2006. The index does the exact same thing, but the odd thing is it was a full year earlier. This index system completely predicted and saw our major downfall in 2006. As you continue to view the trend, you can see this chart replicating the price per square foot trends, but just slightly before it actually happens. It's absolutely unbelievable. And sure enough, right at the end of our chart here shows another very nice increase in market index over the last year that we've had. I believe that's a clear indication, and yet just another confirmation of the numbers that we're seeing that again just shows 2016 should only continue to rise, and yet quite possibly at an even higher rate than we've seen in quite some time. Finally, we arrive at a total comparison to the market snapshot. It's from the very beginning of this year compared to last. You see the normal slow start past Christmas and the New Year compared to, of course, last month. So the very, very beginning column here is the beginning of December. Obviously, we had all the holidays, people are vacationing, there are not quite as many purchases going on. That causes a slight dip. But then, whenever you look at this time of the year, and you actually compare apples to apples, which will be this time of the year last year, it's incredible looking at all of that green. Almost every single indicator shows a positive trend to our market compared to last year. Every single one, except active listing price per square foot, which really all that shows is that people are just asking more than they were a year ago for their homes. It's amazing, and just another indicator on what's to come for the year of 2016. I'm so very excited for what we have in store and truly feel those looking to be in the real estate market, this is an absolute prime time to invest. Our values continue to show signs of increase, and if our market index is absolutely indication, those values or increases will continue at a substantially higher rate. Thank you so much again for watching. I'll see you out in the field, and have an amazing 2016.